You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple, Litecoin, and more. Cryptocurrencies and other digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity. Provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments on everything from coins to tokens, futures, and even OTC options. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means it is time once again for the Crypto Rundown, the program where we break down everything going on in the world of crypto. So the volume, the volatility, the open interest, the skew, the unusual activity, all that good stuff on the options and indeed the futures, even some of the spot mixing in there as well. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from this fine network upon which you are enjoying this program right now. Coming at you a little bit earlier today. Don't want to get you this news in your ear holes as quick as possible. Going to do another quick hit version of the show. Get you in, get you out, get you on your way. We'll be back, of course, with more of the hot seat and all sorts of other fun stuff on future episodes of the program. So without further ado, let's get right to it. It is time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trading activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, let's get to it. Let's break down all of the activity in the world's leading digital asset. Yep, we're talking Bitcoin. Come into Showtime. That's that time of the year, listeners, and we're seeing that reflected a bit in Bitcoin. I've said this on many of our other shows on the network now. Outside of the pandemic and the civil unrest and all the other things that are making 2020 such a fun year for everyone, outside of that, July heading into August, normally not a hot time for any real financial market. Usually it's a very seasonally quiet period. Most of the street and the major traders are off on vacation. Not a lot happening. Markets are thin and kind of light. And we're seeing that kind of reflected a little bit out there in crypto right now. It's yet another week where things were kind of quiet. We're drifting down. Bitcoin down, as of the start of the show, almost 100 handles from where it was last show. Last week, we ended up right around 93.05 during the show, and coming into Showtime today, we're at about a 92.09 and change. So not quite 100 handles, but not a huge move net week on week here otherwise. And we're seeing that reflected in the vol numbers as a result. Remember, most of these metrics coming at you courtesy of our friends over there in Skew Land. Check them out, skew.com. It's still free. Kick the tires and light the fires until they come to their senses over there. 30-day realize, which is the actual volatility that's been exhibited in the marketplace over the last 30 days, listeners, has ticked down yet again. It was already anemic. It was in the 50-odd%. Now it's down to 30% last week. This week it's still at that level, at a little bit low, about 28%. So it's coming off that a little bit. So the actual vol being exhibited out there is still pretty light. 1 year, it's pretty much unshut, around 80-odd% out there. So net over the past year, Bitcoin has been volatile. Over the last month, not as much. Let's get out to the implied vol, which is the actual amount of volatility that Bitcoin options are pricing in, listen, this is what you're actually going to pay when you're out there trading options out there. Is some level around this. It's going to change. This is at the money. You get out to the out of the money contracts. It's going to change, but in general, front month at the money, this is about what you're looking at. And we're down to yet again, which makes sense. Bitcoin is not really moving a ton right now. It already had come down to about 54% on our last show. Now it's shy of 50%, 49%, which is still a volatile asset. You listen to our TWIFO program, and we break down things like treasury options or fluid milk or even the equities and things. Equity is going to be are less volatile than this right now. Even the most volatile one, like small caps, are 30-odd%. That's volatile, but not quite as volatile as this. Our old friend the VIX, nowhere near a 50. So you're seeing things in different contexts. It's light vol from an overall Bitcoin perspective, but compared to a lot of other assets out there, the 10-year is a 3 vol. I mean, there's not much going on in a lot of these products out there. So still comparatively volatile, but compared to its own recent history, perhaps not so much. Well, let's go out to the options front. Despite the fact that it's kind of been a sleepy week out here, the options volume says no. The options volume says we're lighting it up. Let's start on the biggest platform out there, which is Deribit. Had some big prints out there last week on the 17th, did $160 million worth of notional. That kind of ties what we saw back in late June, around that same level, which was, I think, the 26th of June. That was our previous record, and now we're hitting that again last week. So big prints out there on the 17th. The 15th and 16th also both doing pretty decent paper, about $100 million even on those, a little bit more, a little bit less on both of those days again, but still pretty active paper out there. The big prints this week looks like on the 17th, the big prints that day were the 10,750 calls, about 700 of those going up for 0.001 Bitcoin. That was done when Bitcoin was at 91.58, listeners, so a wee bit south of where it is right now. Someone coming in and scooping those. Well, we don't know. We don't have the sides on these, actually, so we're just intuiting. We don't even really have a good spread to give us an indication of where this print went up. Hopefully, as the tools improve, I think our friends over there on the Genesis front are trying to make some improvements on that front to help you get a little bit more insight into what's going on with some of these prints. But either way, a big block of about 700 of these 10,750 calls going up on that busy day on the 17th out there. That was kind of the biggest print of the week. 2 blocks of 350, really. So they went up at the same time. So pretty much the same trade. Coming into today's activity, not a heck of a lot. The big strike is 11,000 out there in the options, and that was the big print today. About 431 of those going up on Deribit up. But these were in SEP, though, so a little bit misleading. I've said before, crypto likes the quarterlies, and it seems like some folks liking themselves a little bit of SEP. Also, July 9,000 puts were active, a little bit north of 400 for the calls and a little bit south of 400 in today's volume coming into showtime for the puts. On the CME options front, another light volume week, kind of light volume week on the futures for them too out there. We'll get to that in a little bit. But on the options front right now for CME, overall pretty light, not a heck of a lot of paper to parse out there. I believe a listener question about that in a little bit. We'll get to that in a few segments here. Let's get to the skew. The skew has been interesting to watch out there. Seeing some swings. Last week, it was kind of a coin flip. It was about 0.4%, so it didn't really show a market bias in either direction. This week, that has changed. The worm has turned back up to 9.2%, so seeing that positive skew out there in Bitcoin land as well. Call to put, similar deal, not a heck of a lot changing. Open interest around 52% to the calls, so that really hasn't changed a heck of a lot. Open interest, though, is starting to come back. Remember, it fell off a cliff after June expiration. We had north of 1.8 billion out there across all the various platforms. Then it fell off a cliff shy of $1 billion after June expiration. It's been slowly and steadily crawling its way back. And now we're getting back up there again. Deribit alone is at about 1.1 billion out there, so it's north of where the whole complex was a few weeks ago. We're seeing CME at about 167 million out there, Ledger X 42 million, OKEX 52 million out there. Talked with Simon Ho on the show last week about some interesting things he's doing on the volatility front with Ledger X. I'll have to get them on to parse that in a little bit more detail. And looks like the options on Backed have finally expired because they've been clinging to 65,000 worth of their open interest forever. Since we started doing this show almost, it seems like. And now that's finally gone away. So Backed is officially at a zero for this. So they're off the charts. So hopefully Backed make a bit of a comeback. But right now, not so much, but OI is growing. Net open interest is north of 1.3, about 1.4 or so billion across all the different platforms out there. Of course, when you add up all those platforms, Deribit is back firmly in the lead, 81%. They always were in the lead, but they were slipping a little bit in terms of how dominant they were. Now they're back up there, 81%. They're doing more paper, while CME and others not so much. CME is down to 12% now after hitting highs much higher percentage-wise not too long ago. Backed, like you mentioned, 0% out there. OKEX, 4%. LedgerX, 3%. So as the OI grows, Deribit kind of reaffirming its stranglehold out there. Let's look at where the action is across the months. We said before, crypto likes the quarterlies, and that is indeed the case, even though July is coming on strong for the brief lifespan that it has here. There's 57,000 contracts open in July right now, so it's doing pretty good. SEP's catching up, though, 28,600, and they're both a pale shadow. In fact, July right now is actually at exactly half of the OI that June had when it went the way of the dodo. June had 114,000 contracts before it vanished into the ether, pun intended. We'll see if – I don't think July is going to have a chance to make it there, but SEP probably will. Go out on a limb and say that's the case. If you're wondering where that action is, it's still primarily in the 11,000 strike. That has just increased its dominance, even though the big print's in 10,750 this week. But 16,000 contracts open on the 11,000 strikes right now. Followed by number 2, it's the 10,000 strike with 10,800. And then it looks like 12,000 with about 10,200. And then we kind of fall off from there. So still July right now, but SEP's coming on strong, and it's still in the 11,000 contracts where 11,000 strike, I should say, where everyone is playing out there these days. Heading out to the futures front, going to CME first. I mentioned at the top of the show, kind of a light week. Today, coming to Showtime, we saw about 2,300 contracts on the tape, and that was pretty much the case for most of last week as well. Every day was pretty much below 4,000, so not a lot going on the Bitcoin front pretty much anywhere, except for Deribit. Deribit's putting up some options volume. Outside of that, the underlying is not moving a heck of a lot. The futures aren't putting up a lot. And the options, again, outside of Deribit, not putting out a heck of a lot. Our old friend, the Backed Volume Bot, crunching the numbers for us on the back side. Total traded contracts on their monthly futures was 1,080. That's down 49%. So rough times out there as well. Remember, their all-time high was 6,601 back on December 18th of 2019. The OI now is down to 5. Actually, I should say up. OI is up, which is interesting. Volume is down precipitously, but OI is up. Volume's down 49%, OI up 57%. They don't see that too often out there. So interesting times afoot out there. Speaking of interesting times, they have been very interesting over the past week in Bitcoin. Unless you've been living under a rock, you probably saw these headlines that most of the major Twitter accounts out there, so your Barack Obamas, your Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Joe Biden, you name it, all got hacked. And it wasn't, it was to do something nefarious, obviously, but it wasn't your traditional type of hacking to steal data or things. They were trying to just steal your money, the old-fashioned hack. I haven't seen one of these in a while. And they did so by trying to get people to send money to their Bitcoin wallets out there. They wanted you to give $100,000 to their Bitcoin wallets out there. I'd be curious to see if they got anything, if anyone's crunched the numbers and see if that address of that wallet actually got any action on it. I'm going to hope for humanity's sake that that's not the case. But still, just seeing Bitcoin got a lot of press, most of it not good this week, but still an interesting week here nonetheless. Again, I'd like to see if anyone crunched the numbers, see if anyone actually got some cash changing hands for that. They had a lot of big high-profile accounts. You have to think someone in maybe a sleepy haze late at night said, I'm going to do that, and sent some money their way. Speaking of sending money, it's going to be interesting, or I should say really easier, soon with MasterCard. They're expanding their program to allow more firms to issue cryptocurrency cards on their network. They signed a deal now with WireX. That's a London firm. That's going to be a native cryptocurrency platform to gain membership there on MasterCard. So now they can issue cards on the MasterCard network. So that's slowly, not the sexiest of news, but it's slowly bringing crypto a little bit closer, inching ever so much closer to the mainstream out there. Of course, Coinbase and others have their own cards out there. They've been around for a little bit, but MasterCard's the kind of the big dog in this space. So when they start turning the Titanic around, it makes a little bit more impact. And speaking of making impact, let's see what's going on now out there in the far, far reaches of the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, let's do it. Let's break into the altcoin universe. Some changes afoot here in the top 10 out there in crypto land. I hypothesized on this last show. I said, could Chainlink make it? Could it break into the top 10 this week? And spoiler alert, yes, it can. It bumped off Crypto.com there to take the number 10 spot. Remember, standard caveats apply when we're talking about these overall market cap numbers. But number 10 is indeed Chainlink at $2.7 billion. So bye-bye for now, at least, Crypto.com coin. Number 9, good old Binance coin, $2.7 billion as well, so just slightly more over there. Number 8, Litecoin, lurking right around that number 8 level for a while. But if this increase from Chainlink continues, maybe not for that much longer, they're at $2.75 billion, so just a wee bit north of number 9 and number 10 there. And we got number 7, Cardano, $3.15 billion. Number 6, Bitcoin SV, also at $3.15. So be interesting to see how all that shakes out there. Then we've got Bitcoin Cash, number 5, $4.1 billion. Number 4, XRP with $8.7 billion. Number 3, Tether, $9 billion, not about 9.2 or so. Then ETH, number 2, $26.7 billion. Number 1 with the bullet, Bitcoin, off a little bit, obviously a little bit shy of the $170 billion level right now. Let's head on into our next largest segment out there, which is ETH. Having a bit of a quiet down week out there as well after having a nice couple of weeks before that. Shedding a little bit of it, down about almost exactly 4 handles. Coming into showtime, we were at about a 238.90, and we were at 242.91. So almost exactly 4 handles from the end of our last show out there. People have been reporting more interest in Ether. This is kind of something we've been talking about for a while out there. Folks like Grayscale, which is a crypto asset manager, they reported record inflows, $906 million in the second quarter out there in ETH land. And so they say that's, of course, this DeFi boom that's driving a lot of interest out there in ETH. And so folks like Grayscale and others still seeing a lot of interest. And we're seeing that reflected in some of the volume, even though the vol is a little bit off this week. Again, these metrics coming at you courtesy of our friends over there in skew land. 30-day realized, kind of unched. You might hear, oh, it's unched, so it hasn't moved. And it just hasn't changed from a vol perspective compared to, it's moved enough to merit the level that it's at right now. So that's when vol doesn't change, that means it's keeping frothy, keeping where it is, but it hasn't really exceeded or diminished any level from there. But remember, if you look back a few weeks, about 3 weeks ago, it was at a 66%. So it has come off substantially from that level out there, quieting up a little bit out there in ETH land. 1 year realized, still at 100%, 101% right now. So looking back over the past year, ETH has been rocking and rolling. 30-day implied, again, this is what you're paying out there in the options market. It's down a bit as well. It was 57% last week. It's 52% this week. A lot of folks have made a lot of interesting analysis about this ETH vol coming into line. It was below Bitcoin for a little while. Bitcoin now dipping back below it. But ETH at a lower vol than Bitcoin. There's some interesting vol trading to be done there. We've seen some interesting analysis floating around as a result. The ADV out there in ETH right now, kind of unched, about 8.7 million. Our biggest spike of late was 17 million on our last show, actually. So on the 17th, they did 17 million out there. The OI, worth noting, was pretty active, though, and it has pretty much crawled back. It fell off a cliff after June expiration like a lot of the other products did too, but unlike Bitcoin, it's already back there, baby. It's already back to the June levels. It hit a high of OI in June, about 165 million, and right now it's at 168 million, so it has surpassed its June level. So interesting stuff. Worth noting as well, OKEX has been coming on strong out there in the ETH realm. I mean, Deribit still has about most of that, 168 million, but if you add in OKEX, they have nearly 10 million now, about 9.4 million. So if you add those two in, actually, we're beyond those levels. But still, interesting to see OKEX coming on strong in Bitcoin options and indeed out there on the ETH front. Maybe I'll have to get them on the show. Can't really play yet here in the U.S., but still coming on strong in a lot of these categories out here. Let's see what else is coming on strong in the altcoin universe. It ain't Ripple, unfortunately. It ain't XRP this week. It's pretty much unched. It's off ever so slightly, but it is below that key 20-cent level. Come into showtime, it was at 0.198. So all you who like to watch those psychological levels out there in Ripple. Unfortunately, got to wait another week for it to get back above 20. But you don't have to wait any longer to have your questions answered because it is time for your crypto question segment.
You've got questions about crypto. Who doesn't? It's time to find out the answers to your crypto questions.
All right, let's see what you guys have on the brain here. Let's start off with Clint. Clint Hawkins. I like that name. He says, is it true that PTJ, I guess he means Paul Tudor Jones, is behind the upswing of volume on CME Bitcoin options? You know, I have heard those rumors, those rumblings as well out here. Clint, I have not been able to confirm or deny that myself out there personally, but it is clear. It is apparent that some large player has kind of switched on the CME options. Not so much the last couple of weeks, but before that, they were pretty much de minimis when it came to volume and OI, and all of a sudden, bam, that switch flipped, right? And someone was doing verticals out there in July and June and a few other things out there. So it is possible. It is possible that it is, as you put it, PTJ. I need to dig a little bit more to see if I can confirm that folks are notoriously close-lipped on those kind of things, particularly over there in CME land. They don't like talking about what customers are up to. But it wouldn't surprise me. Someone has been playing for size out there of late. So either some other big Bitcoin whale decided, you know what, this listed venue is where I want to hang my hat for my options volume. Or maybe it is your friend. Maybe you're buddies with him. Maybe that's why you call him PTJ. I don't know. But either way. Short answer is we don't know yet, Clint, but I have heard those rumblings, and the longer answer is it wouldn't surprise me if that was indeed the case. And we'll do a little bit of digging to see. Let's see, we got time for a few more here. Let's go out to our old buddy, frequent listener, frequent commenter, Scott Somer. He's liking it on the YouTubes. A lot of you are liking this show on the YouTube. So if you like it on YouTube, it's available there for you. It should be a nice little list, a playlist for you if you just want a mainline crypto rundown. I encourage you, though, if you're listening to that, to check out our other programs. And wherever you listen to this, YouTube, iTunes, wherever, make sure you subscribe to the full network. You're getting all this stuff, not just Crypto Rundown every week, but a bunch of other shows. Pretty much every day you're getting content. And if you like it, leave those reviews, leave those comments, just like our buddy Scott here did. Let's see. He said, when will the ability to play for stocks or options using crypto take place first? On a crypto platform or a mainstream brokerage? But then he chimed in, he said, he corrected himself, said, he meant pay. I kind of got you here. I got you. He wants to pay for Chainlink with Chainlink. Maybe in a few years that will actually mean something. Maybe. That's a good question. Like our first one, that's a good question. We have seen some of the major, quote-unquote, mainstream brokers be more progressive than others when it comes to crypto offerings. One of them, unfortunately, was TD Ameritrade. They were big partners with RSX and investors and things. Now we all know that's part of the Schwab empire. Schwab hasn't been as progressive, shall we say, on the crypto front. So that might take a back seat over there. So I would have maybe said one of those platforms. So I think it'll probably come on a crypto platform first. They seem to be more inclined and have more of an incentive to take risks, be a little bit more edgy, be a little bit more innovative on the product side. And then we see the big dogs come along and follow suit and, quote-unquote, legitimize it out there with a little bit more paper, a little bit more institutional order flow. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it play out that way, particularly now that TD is moving in to become part of Schwab. They haven't shown to have a lot of desire to be innovative on the crypto side of the fence. So it'll probably be one of these other crypto platforms out there. But yeah, for now, we'll have to kind of play, wait and see. And certainly for a lot of you in the U.S., it's kind of a moot question because a lot of these platforms that do all the paper, like Deribit and others, are still challenging, shall we say, for you guys to get access to. But we're going to try to bring on more firms that you guys can actually play with here in the U.S. and pick their brains and see what you guys can do. Maybe, who knows, maybe we'll see more movement on that front as well. Great question out there, Scott. Great questions, everybody. I want to thank all of you out there for downloading, for streaming, for subscribing, for listening to our little crypto quick hit this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got some value out of it. And remember, we're back pretty much every day this week. Got some interviews hitting you tomorrow on Interview Tuesday on the network. Wednesday, we're back with Boot Camp and OPR to get your options learning on. Thursday, of course, TWIFO for your futures options fix. Probably talk a little bit of crypto there as well. That's where it flies in over on the CME side of the fence. And, of course, part 2 of the option block out there. And then, of course, Friday, volatility views. And we kick it all off again on Monday for the option block and another episode of the Crypto Rundown.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.